The member for Unley.
Intimidated speaking after the member for Marietta. How do you think I feel? John, the member for Marietta and I, he had the, whether it's a misfortune or whether it was a fortunate situation, only he knows that, but after 8 years as the Shadow Minister for Education, 2 years out from the 2018 election, the Stephen Marshall thought that maybe Pisoni needed to do something else, and we needed somebody that was able to run an education department if we won the 2018 election. And it was extraordinary how it took me 8 years to learn the things that I learnt, and yet John went into that campaign just after 2 years, knowing everything he needed to learn and more about the education system. We had a great experience together. Skills, obviously, innovation, a lot of crossover in the work that we did, the school-based apprenticeships, the entrepreneurial high schools, the restoration of the function of TAFE was a big project that we worked on together, and John was very gracious in with that work and us sharing that and experiencing that together and working together, getting our partners to work together and actually, rather than competing with each other, working together to get those outcomes. And I think one of the big tasks that we took on together was, when the bureaucrats got it wrong about what Glenunga High School needed for moving grade 7 into high school, and already a school at full capacity in what was then in my electorate at that time. Several meetings with the governing council and the principal, but then getting it right and finding that extra funding to get those extra buildings done. And of course, Unley High School during John's time, it was the first state government funded capital project in 25 years at Unley High School, and it's a magnificent building and offers a whole range of new qualities of education for those who attend Unley High School. So, and I still remind myself of the fact that John was able to make that transition from grade 7 into high school in just half the time that Queensland did it and half the time that Western Australia did it. And I was thinking, you're not telling me that you're going to make this happen on just a month or two before we go to an election. There is no room for an error in that situation, and of course there wasn't an error, and it was done very, very well, and I know that John was very, very focused on that, and with the help of Rick Percy, who managed that beautifully with John, it was a transition that we now wonder why we didn't do it earlier. So, John, thank you for your friendship, your guidance, and I know you're one of the many people that have kept me focused on where I should be in this role, rather than where I might be drifting. And if it wasn't for you, I think that whether I would have lasted 4 years as a minister, I'm not quite sure. So thank you very much, John, and congratulations.
The Leader of Government Business.
First and foremost, I move that the House, sitting at the House be extended beyond 6 p.m.
Is it seconded? Yes, all those in favour say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Minister.
Sir, I know John likes Roman sayings. Let no man curse a capable foe. He is the anvil on which we are forged. I don't know, sitting on our side of the House, whichever side you're on, opposition or in government, looking at your political opponents, you never quite know what people think about the ones you rate. And it's an interesting dynamic. And I've always rated John. I've always thought he's very capable. I always thought he's organised, he had a sharp political mind, he knew what he wanted to achieve, he knew how he wanted to present himself and how he wanted to present the man he wanted to lead the state. And he went about organising it and he organised it in a very well-disciplined way. And it was interesting to watch, and I watched it. And I thought, John's value won't be known, I think, to a lot of us in this place until he's gone. It's not a criticism of who he is. I think he's an exceptional member of Parliament and he's a very good orator, and he's very good at what he does, and he's been a loyal servant of the Liberal Party. But I don't think you will realise his value until the day after the next state election. And then people will realise the real value of John Gardner. He's a very, very capable adversary. He's one of the good guys of the Parliament. He's one of the nice guys of the Parliament, but he goes about his business ruthlessly, which is impressive. I don't think I've ever heard him say a bad word about anyone in the Parliament. He may have felt it every now and then, but he's one of the genuine good guys. And when you see one of the genuine good guys is also capable, they do garner a lot of respect. So from our perspective, especially my perspective, and I don't want to speak for your colleagues because I know that they admire you a great deal, but from our perspective, you're a capable foe, a very capable foe. And I wish you and your family, and especially your young daughters, all the joy that comes with having their dad around. And, you know, I know that my daughter turned 15 on the weekend, and my wife and I were sitting in bed after this horrific long birthday party we had to organise for her. And she was going through Instagram Reels, and we were just sitting there watching them. And this bit came on, and it said, "The only person you should envy are those with young children." And I do envy you, John, because you've got two young daughters. I have two older daughters who are less attentive to me than they used to be. So enjoy the time that you have with them. You've been a loyal servant of your party. You've made them proud, and you've done them an exceptionally good career of 16 years. And I think you can hold your head up high after you leave this place. You've been a credit to your family and to your party. And congratulations on choosing the timing of your own exit. That is a rare choice for many of us in this place, and you've done it. Well done.
The Minister for Education.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I rise to make just a short contribution. I know there are others who would like to speak as well. But there's a few words I would like to share about the member for Morialta, having got to know him very well over the last few years, and our getting to know each other started, of course, with me rather unexpectedly becoming the Shadow Minister for Education and following in the footsteps of the member for Port Adelaide. And John, of course, by that stage well and truly had his eye in as the current Minister for Education. And of course they are kind of rocky grounds upon which to build any kind of relationship as you're trying to claw your way back to government, and you're sort of, you know, trying to make your way in cabinet, and you've got, you know, COVID happening at the same time. But despite that, John was always very decent to me at that time, in terms of, you know, talking to me about sensitive issues sometimes that we knew should be kept out of the political arena. And you know, I think that's a hallmark of the way he has operated, and something that people in this place this afternoon have shared. It is part of his nature, part of his decency to do that, and it is a very rare commodity in politics, and I feel sometimes it is one that is dying out. But I want to, you know, acknowledge the many, many times that John has, and this is not meant in any way as a criticism, but it has elected to pull a punch because it would have done no good to the people out there, often children, who would have really felt the brunt of that particular issue becoming a politicised one. And it wasn't that John was not capable of throwing a good punch in the political sense. I, in a different life, worked for Jay Weatherall when he was the Premier of the State. And I remember one day standing in the Premier's office after a question time. I don't know what the topic was on that day, but Jay would come in and sort of muse to the staff around what question time was like. And he said to me, he said, "The most dangerous asker of questions on that side is John Gardner." I remember very clearly he said to me, the most dangerous asker of questions, you've got to watch out for him because he knows how to set the question up and you won't know where he's going with the first few questions. It's a remarkable skill. And I sort of thought that's interesting, and I put it out of my mind. And it wasn't until about April 2022 when I was sitting here as the by this stage, Education Minister, and John is the shadow, and I'm preparing to potentially get a question from John, and these words from Jay came ringing back in my ears that I had indeed a very, very sharp political operator on the other side. And he was, as the member for Unley said, right across his brief, right across all corners of the education portfolio. He knew all the detail and he had an exceptional passion for it. And just a couple of things I do want to mention that I think are notable contributions that he made in his time as the Minister. Year 7 into high school, although we had differing opinions on doing it, it was a huge exercise. I also did not see how it was possible to get it done in time, but you managed to do that, and that is a credit to you. Flexible industry pathways, it's something that we have kept, that was, I'm sure, not without controversy and not without people saying this is potentially not a good idea to do. We have kept that. Literacy guarantee unit we've heard a lot about. Clontarf is incredibly important, and we've sought to build on that as well. And SWIFT is, I think when I worked for a former education minister and we went out to regional education sites, the part of the department that would often be criticised most was the IT department back then. By the time I came around to do it again, post-SWIFT, as we had that rollout of super fast internet, it is always the first part of the department that people compliment about the support they get, and a lot of that happened in John's time as the minister. We had the opportunity to travel overseas together to Lyon and the United Kingdom. It was a very, very enjoyable trip. It was fantastic company, but I'll finish just by reiterating what, of course, everyone else in here has noted about his love for his family and Trudy, Emma and Eleanor. At every spare moment on that trip, we were catching fast trains, we were in airports, we were driving a car to Barrow and Furness from Heathrow. Every spare moment, John had a stuffed toy, I forget its name, you'll probably remind me. Pizza and somebody else.
The other one.
But a video was done back to the kids explaining where he was, saying that he missed them. It was so incredibly genuine, you couldn't help but understand instantly his own sense of affection, commitment and love to his family. And John, wish you all the best, but I know we will keep in touch.
The member for Chafey.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And I'd like to pay tribute to John for the great service that he has done to the South Australian Parliament, but also what the service that he has undertaken to South Australia. As has been stated here, it is a great privilege to be part of a representative group that does look after the state. But my friendship has been quite extensive with John. I don't have any political background before coming into this place, and so John has performed a number of roles to support me over my time here. Most of it is to keep me out of trouble. Occasionally it works, occasionally it doesn't. But John has shown a vast intellect, and as we've heard from John's his speech, he has eloquently put everything in place through his time here, his journey, his love for his family, but also the people that have mentored him, the people that have helped him on his journey. No more so than Vicky Chapman, a friend of mine as well as many in this place. But I think Vicky's guidance and wisdom, and also being his boss for a long time, also put him in good stead, as did Simon Birmingham, who also has a great intellect for the political landscape, and the advice that I've received from all three has been invaluable, over that time. But his strengths, and I think as the Minister for West Torrens has eloquently put it, we don't agree on a lot, but what I do agree on is that John's value, his contribution, and his day-to-day guidance will be missed significantly. And I know that for sure. And I think it was just a brief conversation I had with John in the lift only a week or so ago, is that what the hell are we going to do when you're not here? And I think we will rise, and there will be people that will fill those gaps. But I think John has been a great sounding board to me. He has been a great mentor, but he has also been, as I said, a great disciplinarian that has been along the way. I've had very much a hotline on my WhatsApp from John, telling me when to and when not to, and keep quiet and shut up and all the rest of it. But where I learned a lot about John was one of our overseas trips, and it was very much, we shared a room in Hong Kong. We shared the trip in China. And along the way, I was designated as the Gombe King. So I was always put up front to do the Gombe. And what happened after part of our trip was that John came up to me and said, "I'm sick of you." He said, "I'm going to challenge you to the Gombe." And we exited where we were and we travelled to another part of that province where we proceeded to give it a fair nudge. And we did a pretty good job, but I did have to drag John out of the gutter, and we did have to get home all in one piece. But, you know, great memories along the way. As has been stated, you know, John has done a piece of everything in this place. He has served the party well, he served the party, the parliament, but as an MP, as a deputy, as a shadow minister, as a minister. But he's also, I think, one of his greatest strengths has been the voice of reason. In the joint party room, he has always got a settling comment. He has always got that voice of reason to give people a little bit more time just to settle, to think, to be more considered with their view without flying off the handle. John, you know, I didn't have any political friends before I came into this place, but I consider you one of those. We were elected together in 2010, and it's been a wild ride. It's been a great journey, and I've had the privilege to not only serve as a shadow and as a minister and a team contributor, but no more so than you. I must say that your legacy, not only in education, will live on, but your legacy to this party will also live on as a great contributor, as a great person. And I thank you for it. I think the people in the gallery, of course, Trudy and the two girls, Eleanor and Emma, you know, they've travelled to and stayed at my home up in the Riverland. We had a great time. I'm sure Trudy and the girls thought, what the hell are these people on when they came up, because it was fast action. I had all of my kids home, but it was just a great family atmosphere. And it just gave me a little bit more time to learn a bit more about the Gardner family and the Gardner girls. But John, I thank you on behalf of the party, on behalf of the Parliament, and on behalf of my family. You're a good person. Thank you.
The member for Lee.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It gives me some pleasure to place some comments on the record about the member for Morialta and what an outstanding job he's done since he's been a member of Parliament. Some of you might be surprised to know that John and I have known each other since 1983, when we first started at school together. Or in fact, I think John might have started a little earlier than me in the reception year. I hope I'm right in saying this, but John is a year younger than me, even though we went through the same year for 12 years at the same school. That's a pretty good indication that John was very bright from day one. He was always very well read, even in those very early years of school, very earnest and very clever with his schoolwork, which of course was some contrast to me during that same journey as well. And so we have known each other all through school. And then of course, as John reflected in his comments before, he started at the University of Adelaide in 1996 at the same time I did as well. And as young, impressionable art students at that university in the 1990s, I think we're both very glad that was the era before camera phones were in existence, because we had a lot of good fun up on level 5 of Union House in the uni bar. But it actually started a period where John and I spent some time in political collaboration, because the Labor groups on campus, much like the Liberal group on campus, were by no means dominant groups. In fact, there was a dominant group on campus. It was this huge, overwhelming, unconquerable faction, ironically called the Independents. And it was the iteration that had grown out of the late 1980s and early 1990s from its forebear, Natasha Stott-Despoja, So this was the Democrats' faction, and I think both sides of politics can agree that the only thing worse than one another, of course, are Democrats. So John and I spent some years actually in collaboration between the various Labor factions on campus, the Liberal faction. I think we roped in the Overseas Students Association, the Mature Age Students Association, the Postgraduate Students Association, this incredible coalition, any support we could muster just to knock them off. And I'm so glad that we finally achieved that mission together, John. I haven't shared that story with Natasha since, but I'm happy to place it on the record here. And then, of course, our journey's continuing to be in sync. In 2002, we both started working for newly elected members of Parliament. For me, it was the then member for Enfield, John Rao, and for John, it was the newly elected member for Bragg, Vicky Chapman, who we're blessed to have here, along with former Senator Simon Birmingham. And so John and I were finding our feet as young, very inexperienced electorate officers. I hope I won't embarrass each other by telling this story. Not long after John had started that role, he rang me and the newly elected government had changed the rules about how many staff could be employed in electorate offices. It went from 1 full-time equivalent to 1.6. And John rang me and he said, "Stephen, do you reckon you'd be interested coming and working in Vicky Chapman's electorate office?" I don't know if that offer was made with the consent of the member for Bragg at that time, but you'll perhaps be unsurprised to know that I politely declined the offer, even though I very much appreciated the sentiment behind its offering. But John was a lot more capable and experienced in politics, which I think is why he entered Parliament in 2010 at such a young age and did it so well. And as the Premier remarked, he replaced his predecessor, of course, the previous member for Moriata, Lindsay Simmons. John's been a lot gentler on the local hairdressers, as I understand it, than his predecessor. And of course, he's conducted himself very well as the member ever since. Of course, I entered Parliament a little bit later, and we've been colleagues ever since. All of the reflections that have been placed on the record about John's capability and capacity as a member of Parliament are absolutely accurate. Few others have had a handle not only on the detail of parliamentary procedure, but a real understanding of the ebb and flow of the business of the House and how to participate in it, if not seize control of it for the benefit of whatever the particular issue or debate might be, or whatever the particular interests of the government or the opposition at the time, whomever John was serving on which side of the chamber. He was a formidable opponent, and it's been a real lesson over the nearly 12 years that I've been in Parliament, again a bit shorter than John, to watch John and understand how well he conducts himself in the chamber. He's also quite, as we just saw from his valedictory, he's quite a talented debater on the floor, very good with legislation, even if it's not something that he's deeply familiar with, very capable of picking up a topic and arguing it cogently and quite forcefully for the benefit of the argument. As the Minister for Education said, very, very wily and difficult to deal with during the heat of question time as well. When John announced that he was stepping down from Parliament, I thought he was finally sick of me after 42 years and he just needed to get away from me. But of course, he could make the same allegation about me stepping away as well in the inverse. But I know that in his time in this Parliament and also in his time as Education Minister, he leaves a significant legacy. John and I have both had the benefit of having Rick Purse as a Chief Executive And chief executives, not too dissimilar to ministerial drivers, do not really talk about others that they've worked for or with. But Rick's been a bit of an exception about John, saying just how good he was as a minister, how good he was to work with, how collegiate the relationship was with the Education Department, and just the sheer volume and pace of change and reform that was able to be delivered in that period. Of course, notwithstanding that half of that term was effectively buggered up by a COVID pandemic. So you do leave a considerable legacy, John, both in your role as a Member of Parliament and also as a Minister. I'm very sure that, yes, your colleagues will miss you, but so will the House of Assembly as well as those of us who've had the benefit of knowing you for a very long period of time and had the enjoyment of interacting with you. It is obvious to all of us how genuine and heartfelt you are in your reflections about Trudy and Eleanor and Emma, and that they will now get the benefit of a much greater share of your time, and as much as they will, I hope you enjoy what's next for you, and like many of us, I look forward to keeping in touch.
The member for Giles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll rise just share a few words, because the community of Whyalla owes a debt of gratitude to John. It's I was involved for a long time with various education reviews, going all the way back to not the last Liberal government, but the one before that. And our aim was to get one high school. It's that previous Liberal government just wanted to do cuts, and then the series of Labor governments, the Education Department kept coming up with models for a full-on super school, closing all the primary schools, kindies, high schools, and having one. And as a parent on these reviews, and as a councillor representing the council on these reviews, I thought that was an incredibly bad idea. Now, the good idea was to amalgamate the high schools. There's 3 high schools in Whyalla, 2 junior high schools, feeding a senior high school. It was a bad model. It's and the Wetherill government, Susan was the education minister at the time, and Treasurer Koutsantonis, they surprised me with their willingness to commit to a $100 million high school, and that was in a half-year budget review. It's not long before the upcoming March election, so the money was locked in, and we lost their government. And I thought, there's absolutely no way this is going to survive Lucas. This is an easy cut to make, an easy cut. There's no political consequences for the Liberal Party. I've got a safe Labor seat, never take it for granted, but it's a reasonably safe Labor seat. So I thought, this is almost guaranteed that there's going to be an easy saving here because of where we were in the process. And it was John in Cabinet that went into bat for Whyalla. So you were dobbed in by somebody else. I'm not going to name who broke Cabinet solidarity and dobbed you in, but it's but you were dobbed in, and I'm told that you argued passionately for this investment. So I could have the implementation left something to be desired, but I wasn't going to blame the Liberal government. You went with the advice of the Education Department. All Year 7s from 7 primary schools and the 3 high schools, all put in at the one time every single year. And then during COVID, I didn't think that was the best way of starting. It should have been incremental, and I could have been an arsehole local member and got out there and attacked the Liberal government. But I thought to myself, would we have gone with the same advice from the Education Department? And we might well have done. So I recognise the fact that you did something incredibly good, then that school will stand as a testament to both a Labor legacy, but also your legacy. To have a high school next to a university campus, next to a TAFE campus, creating a whole education precinct was something that you should be proud of.
And I'd just like to put on the record my thanks for your service, John, in this place and to your portfolio in your time as a Shadow Minister and Minister. We really appreciate it. I want to wish you all the very best in that transition from Parliament to life after Parliament. I hope it goes very, very well for you. And thank you again for your service.